Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and we're once again recording at Nutmeg with our engineer Frank Verderosa. Our guest this week is a director, writer, actor, and one of the most original and audacious comedians of his generation. He began his stand-up career at the tender age of 15 and was soon headlining clubs, selling out theaters, and performing in concert specials like Share the Warmth and An Evening with Bobcat Goldthwait. As an actor, you know him from popular films like One Crazy Summer, Scrooge, Burglar, Tapeheads, Blow, and 3 Police Academy films, which he refers to as his porn past. You've seen him on television in hit shows like Married with Children, ER, The Ben Stiller Show, That 70s Show, The Larry Sanders Show, Mad TV, Bob's Burgers, and as the advice-dispensing bunny, Mr. Floppy on Unhappily Ever After. I'm also told there was a memorable Jay Leno appearance somewhere in there. He's also been praised for his work behind the camera, directing everything from episodes of Chappelle's Show to Jimmy Kimmel Live to comedy specials for performers like Mark Maron and Patton Oswalt, to the feature films Sleeping Dogs Lie, God Bless America, the acclaimed award-winning documentary Lucky Me, the Robin Williams star World's Greatest Dad, and of course Shakes the Clown, which the Boston Globe called the Citizen Kane of alcoholic clown movies. Please welcome to the podcast an artist of many talents and a man who once rappelled naked from the ceiling during a Nirvana concert. My old hot-to-trot co-star, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, well, thank you, Gilbert. That was a eulogy. I felt like we should have had the sad Entertainment Tonight music playing.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, he usually adds Found Dead in his L.A. apartment.
Yes.
For some of these.
That's all we had to do.
And I remember one critic called Hot to Trot a justifiable, notoriously awful movie.
Wow. Yeah, it's but you should revisit it because it's really not what you think. If you go back, it's bad.
Isn't it the movie you called the movie with no name? With you and your daughter discussing?
My daughter would never. Yeah, it wasn't even. She didn't know it had a name. It was just that fucking horse movie. Her whole life growing up.
I remember I ran into Buck Henry somewhere because he also did a cameo in that. And I said to Buck Henry, I said, we've never met, but we both appeared in the same movie. And he looked at me and in a most horrified, disgusted way, he goes, HTT?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it was called at my house. HTT. It really was. I was lying when I said the effing horse movie. But that horse, there's a lot of things wrong with that movie, but that horse hated me.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, because horses don't really talk. And, this is terrible. They would hit the horse and I really love animals, and they would hit the horse in the mouth with a stick.
Oh,
to make it talk. Yeah, and so Robin Williams was my pal, and he's like, "So how's it going?" And I was like, "It would be like doing Mork and Mindy, and then just before they say action, someone punched Pam Dauber in the mouth." That's what it's like. I remember there was this old guy, I think his name was Bucky, and he was a cowboy, and the horse would lift up its tail, and he would be like a ninja, and he would get a shovel and catch the crap before it ever hit the floor. And one day I see the tail go up, and he's Corky was his name. Corky he didn't even get off the apple box, and the horse had diarrhea, and it just shat all over the wall like a Jackson Pollock painting, and all over myself, and it was horrible. And the AD's like, well, that's a wrap.
I remember that horse almost killed me.
Yes,
there was one scene where I'm like talking to the horse, of course, and the horse got upset and went and stood up on two legs.
Oh my God!
And the trainer. Here, the man, whatever the horse's owner was, he was blaming me. He said, because I jumped out of the way. And I said, I jumped out of the way because the horse was about to crush me.
Yeah, there was a 1,400-pound animal.
Yes.
So I jumped out of the way. Yeah, it once it stood on my foot, and I just was screaming, and people were like, oh, he's doing his act. He's always in character, that one.
Want to make a little bet?
You know I ain't got nothing to bet.
Yeah, you bet this turd.
I couldn't bet my horse.
Chicken shit, huh?
Okay, I'll bet this horse. Against what? What do you have to bet?
Well, let's see, can you break a 20?
I'll bet my horse against your horse.
Hey, now that's ridiculous.
Chicken shit?
Who you calling chicken shit?
Calling you chicken shit. You're a chicken shit.
Okay, Freddie, I'll make the bet. My horse against your horse. All my horses against your horse.
Sweetheart, you can't do that.
Sweetheart, what do you think I am? Chicken shit? That's a bet, Fred.
Including satin doll.
Including satin doll.
No, not my satin doll, too.
Darling, don't be a chicken shit. You're on, Freddie.
And I remember too. Let's. Oh, there's a few things about that.
Who did you play?
I was at the very end. I come in as the dentist.
Oh, you were the dentist, right? That's right.
And now horses don't sit down. And if you know anything about horses, so they built a dentist chair, and they were forcing the horse to sit in it. It was just, I'm not Bob Barker or
with animals,
Betty White.
Or Betty White. But
I was riding on this fake horse that was covered in actual horse. they stretched a hide over a plastic horse, and they took me out on the racetrack, and people are like, Bill, like the other horses I recognize. They were terrified.
Yeah, do you at least have fun working with Dabney Coleman?
Yeah, I mean, that whole movie actually kind of got me directing. I was just like, this is such a bad experience.
Really?
Yeah, it really was. After that, I went and shot a short called The Making of Bikini School 3, and that's kind of what started me directing. And it was a short. It was kind of making fun of Police Academy, and the producers. I lose money in Canada. The crews are just technically more advanced. And then the director be pontificating, and it'd just be a scene where a bird's shitting on a guy's head, and the director's going, and poop. And poop. But it had Kathy Griffin in it and David Spade and a bunch of folks like before they popped,
So as bad as the film was, you kind of owe it a debt of gratitude for getting.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it really
started.
It did launch me onto becoming a director. Yeah.
And do you feel like more like mature and also in charge as a director than as a performer?
I think it's really close to being a stand-up, because when you're on stage doing stand-up comedy, you're always thinking about 900 other things. One, what am I going to say next? What am I doing next? What if, that drunk guy keeps talking, did the checks go out? So you're kind of multitasking as a comedian. So some of that skills is the same skill set. I think that helped a lot when I directed Kimmel. I did like 300 some episodes of that when it was live. Well, it was still, there was a delay, but it was pretty live. And that's a lot like doing stand-up. It was funny. I just did Patton's new special in Chicago, and it was really, he was amazing. He was brilliant as always. And then, he addressed his wife passing away, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. But I went back into the mode that I was when I was directing Kimmel, and I'm looking in the audience to get cutaways of people crying, And when I was on Kimmel, I'd be looking in the audience to finding, like Jimmy would tell a joke that didn't land, and I'd cut to a guy who was actually asleep in the audience. But it was. I felt a little bit like a ghoul, but I also feel that I really did successfully capture that night, the show that Patton did. And I don't think he's ever going to do that set again. It was pretty strong and powerful.
Oh, wow, one time only.
Well,
kind of, yeah.
No, I was going to say, I love in comedy specials or anything with an audience, if they make a joke about a black guy, then the camera desperately has to find a black guy in the audience
a black
laughing.
Guy. I wanted to just keep doing that, and just say, hey, I was in Alaska. What is it with these Inuit people? And then cut to someone with a baby seal in the front row. Yeah, that's always that. Yeah, that's the worst. And certain shows were even worse at it than others. I think the old Evening at the Improv was the king of that.
Oh yeah,
where they would give the cutaways to the suddenly that person is forced to be the representation of their heritage.
And the thing is, for the most part, unless it's like a Chris Rock or Kevin Hart special, if it's the average comic, you don't find that many blacks in the audience. So it's really a desperate search.
So they have to go hunting.
Yes.
Or they sometimes will go to a casting service. And they'll say, well, I do a lot of material on Asian drivers, so if we could have an Asian guy in a NASCAR burn suit, that would be great.
Bobcat, a couple of things about Kimmel. First of all, I heard you say that Jimmy took a chance on you when you weren't doing a lot of directing.
Or no, yeah, I mean,
You're
basically,
grateful to him.
People were using my name as a punchline, and Jimmy. But the funny thing is ABC would never kind of mention or promote the fact that I was the director, even though I was there for 3 years. It would be like, the guy who's banned from the other talk shows? Yeah, he's driving the bus over here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And you did 300 of them.
It's like even more. I think it's like 350.
Wow.
But
wow.
Yeah. So, I loved that job. It was really fun. But then I started making small indie movies while I was there, and then I kind of just left. But we're still friends and stuff. I didn't leave.
Well, at least tell Gilbert the Nickelback story, since we're talking about Kimmel, because it's fun.
Well, Nickelback, they might be nice guys, but their manager was a dick. And he came into the booth, and he's like, who's the director? And I'm like, I am. And he goes, don't shoot Chad profile. And I go, who's Chad? And he's like, our lead singer. And I was like, why can't I shoot him from the side? And he's like, because he has a big nose. And I was like, okay, I won't shoot Chad profile. And I was kind of laughing. I go, okay, I won't. And then and the cameraman could hear me in the headset. And one of them goes, pussy. So if you ever seen the Kimmel Show, the band will do 2 songs. And as it's doing the second song, the show goes off the air. So I said to the assistant director, I go, Kathy, tell me when I have 10 seconds left. She goes, okay. And I'm like, camera 6, camera 4. And then she goes, 10 seconds. And I go, shoot the nose. And 7 cameras zoomed in on this guy's nose. And I made a nose montage.
I love it.
And then we went off the air. And then it was dead quiet in the headset. And the crew's like, what are we going to do? I go, I'm getting in my car. But that made the East Coast broadcast. But then they re-edited it for the rest of the country.
Now,
they re-edited it, and there was one camera that couldn't zoom in, so it's just this weird wide shot hanging at the end of the show.
It's a good story.
Now, you said something before, if I could jump back to that, about how you think about loads of things when you're doing a stand-up set.
Yeah.
And I find, and I used to hear this about dramatic actors and singers who look like they're performing their guts out and that they're thinking of other things. And I find that all the time. I'll be doing a set, I'll be up there screaming, running around, and I'll be thinking like, oh, God, I used to have this pair of green socks. I don't know. I haven't seen those.
We talked to Stephen Wright. He said the same thing. He said that his mind wanders sometimes.
Yeah. Did I turn the oven off?
Yes. Oh,
I think, though, yeah, it's a weird combo of trying to stay in the moment and then at the same time not. We're really multitasking when we're up there. I think it's funny. You and I have similar careers. I feel. I also feel that
we both started at 15.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah,
both started as teenagers.
And also, just I mean, seriously, when they get to the Rolodex, if they can't get one, they get the other.
Yes.
You know? it's the same. It's just. I mean, there is a. We were saying there. I did get a call from Affleck when you got fired.
Oh, you
I got
did?
a call.
Oh,
yeah, I really did. I don't know if you knew that ever, but yes, I did. And for a minute, I was like, I wouldn't do that. My friend Gilbert, and I'm walking around the house, like, well, you know, Affleck. Maybe I could make it my own. Maybe if I didn't, as long as I wasn't derivative of what he had done, you know. And then I just said, you can tell those people to go fuck off. It's like,
thank you.
If you were mad at him, it's not going to take long for you to be furious at me.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You were doing a bit about it for a while.
Well, it wasn't even a bit.
Yeah.
Actually, during a live taping, and it was the day of, I was performing, and someone yelled Affleck up. And I think they actually just thought I was you. I can't remember. But,
they yelled Affleck sucks.
Yeah, Affleck sucks. So
Yeah.
in solidarity, but they just got the comic wrong.
Yeah.
This taping is part of the alimony tour. We are all paying for a pool that none of us swim in. That sounded dirtier than I wanted to sound. I'm not implying my ex-wife's vagina is the size of a swimming pool. Affleck sucks. Do you really think I'm Gilbert Gottfried? I'm not Gilbert Gottfried. I can truly, when he got fired, this happened today. When he got fired, I gotta tell you, I go, maybe they'll call. I spent the afternoon walking around the house quacking. Affleck. No, I gotta make it my own. Affleck. There you go. There, I'll put a spin on it. Snap-a-doo. Are you ever confused for me or for anyone else? Do people ever say, you know?
It's, you know who I used to get confused with? Who people used to say when I was walking down the street, hey, Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling.
Are you serious?
A foot taller than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as you and me, what I've always noticed, the times that we'll be talking to each other, people will walk past us and go, oh boy, it's those two together. We better make a run for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, meanwhile, where they're going, they're going to be serving lunch soon.
We're talking about our children.
Yes.
It's like living on the edge. Hey, I don't know how much because I don't, you're very odd when it comes to self-promotion. You're not very good at it.
He's pretty shameless about it, though.
Well, but it's funny. He's live dates and things like that. He's fine, but I don't know. I saw your documentary and it is amazing. Actually, I think it's great. I mean, everybody knows you're brilliant and hilarious and all that, but you walk away with a better understanding of Gilbert, but in no way does it diminish you as a comedian or talent. It's very heartfelt. It's really well done, and I don't know. I just love the movie.
Oh,
yeah, well,
thank
we'll tell
you.
Neil, the filmmaker, Neil Berkeley.
Yeah, it's really great. I think people, don't understand comics who people accuse of going over the line. It makes it pretty clear that it's a defense mechanism, and it's not a defense mechanism aimed at I'm going to protecting ourselves. It's actually a bigger defense mechanism when something so horrible happens. It's how we deal with it. I don't know. I just felt I really loved the movie, and I thought it was great.
Oh, thank you. Because I remember that was the most recent we saw each other.
Now, were you terrified when they turned the cameras on you?
Yeah. I hated every second.
You resisted it for a long time, too, when Neil first approached you.
Yeah, I resisted it. I hated him following me. I hated waking up in the morning and he'd be there. And I hated...
Poor Neil.
I fucking hated watching the movie because to me, it's like what hell must be.
Right.
Like you die and it goes, okay, now you're going to sit here and you're going to watch your life here.
Yeah. Well, I made a documentary about my friend Barry Crimmins, and I never showed it to him until he the first time he saw it was sitting in a theater with me at Sundance. And I didn't, and naively, I thought, well, he'll like it. But yeah, it was terrifying for him. It was just, he's just the first 20 minutes, he's just like, oh, why'd you talk to this asshole? Oh, just. And I was like, don't worry, by the end I make you Jesus. I tell his story. He's an incredible man and stuff, but
he did a heroic thing, Barry Crimmins. And he continues to. He's a great comedian, and he doesn't like the word hero, but yeah, he is a hero, and that was why I wanted to make the movie. It wasn't just because he was my pal and I love him. I just thought his story, his story. I'll tell it quickly. He as an adult in the mid-'90s, he disclosed on stage that he'd been raped as a kid when he was 4, and while he's looking for other survivors, he found all these guys exchanging child pornography on the internet. This is back when AOL was basically the only game in town. He complained to AOL. He went to the police. He went to the feds. Nobody did anything, so he posed as some kids and collected all this evidence against all these predators, and he took AOL all the way to the floor of the Senate during a judiciary hearing. And in the meantime, his personality shifted. But I knew I was going to make the movie because when he went to the floor of the Senate, it read like a Frank Capra film, this outsider taking on the establishment. So. Yeah.
But there was one moment with him when he was talking about the man who had done these things to him, and he had just found out that that guy had died in prison. And I said, well, how do you feel? And he says, well, I feel bad. And I was like, because you didn't get to confront him, that there was no closure? And he said, no, the guy died alone. And at that moment, I thought, I'm going to win so many awards. At that moment,
what? So he had
at that moment, I was like, yeah, I go.
He had
to
compassion
see go,
for the person who victimized him.
I don't know if it's compassion. I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was the fact to take all that rage and to be able to have empathy for this person. It is so. Yeah, I mean, that was honestly, I was so moved by that. That was what fueled me to go make the movie. I didn't think I was going to win awards, but we ended up anyways. But yeah.
Yeah, Boston Film Festival and a bunch of others.
Sure, yeah.
I told you this at the premiere. Back a while ago, well, first of all, we should say that I met your family, years ago.
When my daughter was tiny,
yeah,
and my stepson was, yeah.
And tell us, yeah.
What about, he's like,
does he know what you're referencing?
Your favorite comic? Well, yeah, my daughter, since she was little, who's your favorite comic? It'd be like Gilbert. And I'd be like, your dad,
Your dad does some animation too, you know. It was always Gilbert. She was always in love with him, and still is as an adult. You know, big fan of Gilbert's. But it's at least she has good taste. You know, I mean, it would have bummed me out if it was somebody who was a hack. You know.
And you said she used to brag to her friends.
Oh, brag! She used to brag. Yeah. She used to brag about being that you were her friend. That's how she would say it.
But I remember.
Go
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I remember you said to me years ago, before I was married or anything, you said, you would make a great father.
Yeah, and I believe, because I just saw that when you were around my kids. You know, there was something. You've always just been so open. With kids, you know, you didn't talk down to them. You were always kind of on their own playing field.
I was going to say, being immature helps.
Yeah,
yeah. And most adults, kids are invisible to, and that wasn't the case with you. Yeah, I always thought that you'd be a great dad.
So when
if folks see that movie, they'll get a really good idea of that.
Oh yeah, Lily has some of the greatest moments in the film, actually.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So when Dara says, "I have 3 kids." When she says that to me, that's where some of the camaraderie comes from. He is great with his kids, Bobcat.
Yeah, but
he
I
really
don't think But when Dara says that, I don't think it's a slam as much as just a pretty accurate portrayal. You know?
How did you like the scene where she's pulling the containers, the giant Tupperwares from under the bed, and she's going through like 20 years of deodorant and hotel soaps?
Look, I'm not saying Gilbert's not a flawed man. If you don't get those soaps from a hotel, do you feel like you messed up, that the show's not complete? Or is it worse, do you think something tragic's going to happen? I'm trying to figure out this compulsion.
I am like, I put those people on those hoarder shows to shame.
Yeah. Do you
use the soap?
Know you're never going to be able to use all of that soap and shampoo.
I'll have to leave them in my will.
Yeah, that's true. Bequeath it to your family. It's pretty insane.
The first thing I do when I go into a hotel is I go to the bathroom and see, okay, I've got a shampoo here, conditioner, skin lotion.
And they're free.
Yes,
so why not take them?
And so when you go back to a club and the people behind the desk recognize you, are they waiting with the shampoos for you, or
a few times they have.
Do you let the hotel staff back in so you can get more?
Yes. Yes.
It's bananas. It's really bananas.
Neil made an excellent choice and a logical choice to have you in a stolen bathrobe on the poster.
Yes.
Or a borrowed bathrobe.
Yeah.
So one thing that's not addressed, I don't think, in the movie is your connection to the Universal monsters. I'm kind of interested in that.
That's interesting.
Just when you were a kid, you saw them and you liked them, or did you think they were normal, or what was it?
When I was growing up, it's like I always say this, when I was growing up, the greatest film school in the country was in your living room.
Yeah.
A $1 million movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was packed all day with old movies, which were probably not that old when I was a kid watching them. But
those Universal pictures would have only been 30 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember one channel, I think it was Channel 5, they had all the Bogart, Cagney, Robinson gangster films. And another would have musicals. And I watched all of them, but I fell in love with the Universal monster movies and even the Monogram, those lesser films.
Right. But did you, I guess I'm trying to think of what is the similarity in all those characters. They are all loners.
Okay.
Yeah, they're tragic, too.
Here's the thing with monsters. It's like Dracula is what every boy wishes he was. He's like women fall unconscious in front of him, and he has control. They follow him.
He's the Cosby of the
monsters.
That's funny.
I am Dracula. Welcome to my castle. And
but Bob was ahead of the curve on the Cosby thing, by the way.
I know. And
I know what you're talking about there. I was reading an interview with Pat, and he said, Bobcat Goldthwait's been talking about Bill Cosby being a rapist on stage for 20 years, and but I didn't know it was true. I just always got creeped out by him and thought it was kind of funny to say that.
But in completion, the Wolfman is adolescence. Your body is changing. You have no control.
This is fascinating.
Over your body. Everything is changing about you. You're growing hair. And Frankenstein is a baby. And he just wants to be loved and understood and make friends. But
if Frankenstein had been a baby that they had brought back to life, he wouldn't have been scary. It would have been nobody would have died. It would have been adorable.
Are you a fan of those movies
Frankenstein's
too?
babies. Yeah.
I couldn't find that in my research. I know you're a Billy Wilder guy.
I like all I like genre pictures, but I think Gilbert and I were probably watching a lot of the same movies, like Abbott and Costello and things like that.
Oh, yeah,
I was a kid.
sure.
I used to think like, Lou Costello, when I was a kid, I was like, man, that guy's a good actor. I was just like, I didn't think he was funny. I was just like, I really like his chops, man. That guy, he was like Paul Newman to me or something. But and where's Mummy land on?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. What about the Mummy?
Oh, the Mummy! Wow.
You gotta go deeper into your.
That one I'm at a loss for.
Yeah, maybe it's just death. I mean, maybe it's just obvious. But I mean, I know that the comics have been talking about that for years. About how not scary that monster was.
Yes, because he walks so slow.
Because he's slow.
He's really slow.
and Lon Chaney Jr. himself said, I don't know why anybody watches those mummy pictures.
You know who we had on this show, Bobcat? We had Janet Ann Gallo, who was a child actress who was in Ghost of Frankenstein. She worked She worked with Chaney Jr. and
she said that she played hide and go seek with Chaney and Lugosi when they were in their film Monster Makeup.
So we dug her up.
Wow.
We had her on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my buddy Charlie Brill, he when he was a kid was in Broadway, and Boris Karloff was playing. He was Captain Hook in Peter Pan, and so Boris Karloff went to Charlie's bar mitzvah.
Oh wow!
Oh my God!
That's fantastic.
Wow!
Yeah. We got to get Charlie and Mitzi on this show.
Oh my God!
And it was great to see Mitzi in World's Greatest Dad.
Yeah, Charlie and Mitzi they're the folks. I mean they've had an amazing career, but they are the ones that went on Ed Sullivan with the Beatles.
We were just talking about them here last night.
Yeah, they were that famous bombing, where it's, the Beatles did a couple sets. So after their first set, they come out, and it's like, we take you to a delicatessen in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it just screams. And at one point, he actually says to Mitzi, can you hear me at all? Like it was just deafening.
I wonder if there's any photos of Boris Karloff wearing a yarmulke.
Well, we'll dig into that. Let's see if we can find it.
Tough, Charlie, muzzle tough.
Well,
today you are a man.
So Charlie said that they were really bummed out after bombing so hard, and then John Lennon came into their dressing room, and he drew a doodle of the two of them. You know how you would do those characters?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you still have that? And he goes, no, I threw it out. I thought the guy was arrogant.
Oh, jeez. Well, I think Sullivan kind of fucked them up too because he cut. And we'll confirm this with Charlie if we get him on. But I think Sullivan told them to change the act.
Oh, probably
like before they went out because he was infamous for doing that.
So
it didn't help.
But you probably had that over the years where you would get a set together for a talk show, and then they would come out and they would give you notes on your set.
Oh, yes.
Wasn't that the worst?
Yeah, because it's old people who are not themselves funny.
Yeah, and they're paranoid about what the host is going to make of what you say, I think. I mean, because I did
yes.
Joan Rivers was leaving the Tonight Show, and Johnny Carson never wanted me on. And so as she was leaving, she booked me on as one of her last guests as an FU to the Tonight Show because they didn't know she was quitting the next day. And so when I went on, I had her introduce me as a dog act, and I came out in top hat and tails, and then I was crying, and then I explained that my dog got hit by a car, and then I told my dad, and he said, "Is there anything I can do?" I go, "Yeah, you could replace him. Please welcome Tom Goldthwait." And I had a 70-year-old guy catch frisbees in his mouth and ride around on a tricycle. So. But then I remember Robert Morton, who was over at Letterman, and he was like, why didn't you do that on our show? And I was like, but I pitched it to him, and he's like, you can't do that. Dave loves dogs. There's always these weird, odd gatekeepers that were, and it was driving me nuts because I'd be like, how does Andy Kaufman get anything on the air? Does he tell them what he's going to do? Do they, because do you, like I would used to write 2 different panels. Like I would write out what I thought I would talk about, and then I would give them the panel that was safe that they could steer me in.
Did you do that, Gil? You're not that hardworking.
No, and the funny thing is, I always to come in and just say hello to them is too much effort.
Too much.
And I was always the type who, when I do a talk show, and they'd always ask me, like, well, can we lead you into a bit? Or could you tell us some jokes about where you grew up?
And you're like, well, I wrote this for me to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't write this with you in mind. It was never a double.
And the funny thing is, now that I do the podcast, I understand at least their side of finding out, because with me, I sit here, and as Frank will tell you, sometimes I just go, I can't think of anything else to ask this.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
like, fuck it. I know.
You're in the middle of looking at someone going, how did this hump get on the show?
There's been a fair amount of that. Well, you know how it is. I mean, you've interviewed people yourself. It's hard to find that smooth line between just the regular conversation and the stilted interview question that sets up the story. The way Leno, the way Leno would do it clumsily.
Oh yeah, Leno was always like, "So I heard you were caught in an elevator with a gorilla." Yeah, I don't know where I heard it.
I think the best was Mike Douglas was the best at that. Like whatever, I mean, you could talk about the demise of a family member, and then he would go right to the next question. Just he would never could not do anything but what was on the cards. It was always great.
I think it's one of the reasons Carson got so much praise, because he was actually artful about it.
Yeah,
he just said, somebody was telling me backstage about this thing, and he'd kind of segue into the conversation. You didn't quite know that he was reading the questions off the cards.
Yeah, I think it's. I get it. I understand how they want everything prepared. I understand people's heads are on the block if you screw up, but it is without. I mean, at least the advent of podcasts, you get to know people a lot more. But I mean, like I was looking at an old Dick Cavett, and Woody Allen came on, and he did comedy. He played his clarinet.
Oh yeah,
he told stories. He talked to politics. I mean. And now it's just these tiny little clips. It's weird. Talk shows now are just the goal of a talk show is to make content for the internet, which is really weird.
There's a lot of that, especially in late night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them are doing like a stunt each night.
For the clip, which, it's funny. When I set The Tonight Show on fire, people often will say that I was banned, but the reality was they had me back on a week later doing like a bit with them. I mean, you can't get banned when people are talking about it the next day, I mean, I did way more damage on Arsenio Hall's show, but no one ever talks about that.
I was watching those clips just today.
When I smashed the...
Oh, and him wrestling you and him trying to pull the stuff out of your hand.
Please welcome Bobcat, Goldthwait.
Hey! I gotta sell that.
Hi, Bobcat.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
This is so sad. This honestly is really sad because, to be honest, I don't quite often get modeling, but I'd like to thank you for having me on the show so much and for all your help over the past, about 6 years.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Listen, we go way back to the cab days.
And then I got thinking, what are you gonna do? I mean, I don't want to be rude or anything, but will you still be able to help my career? Essentially, what I want to know is, do I still have to keep kissing your ass? I mean, to be honest, it is. Why I feel. Why make it easier for the next guy? Are you really quitting?
Yeah.
Well, then let's cut right now.
I saw that. I hadn't seen it in 20 years or whatever, and I watched it and I was like, oh, this is really violent. Yeah.
But entertaining.
I spray painted Paramount Sucks on the backdrop because he just got fired.
Right.
And I go, well, let's not make it easy for the next guy who gets the job. And I spray paint Paramount Sucks, and then I start throwing the mattresses from the couch into the audience, and the crowd's going crazy. And then I just knocked over these 2 monitors, which cost about $3,000, and put my Doc Martens through the back of it. And then he tackles me, and he's holding me down. Oh, I started to throw the couch or something through the back wall, but he tackles me. And as he's holding me down on the ground, he goes, "Thank you."
Unbelievable.
The terrible injustice is that I have to pretend like I'm mad at him.
And then immediately I'm like booked on, Regis and Kathy Lee, and my goal there was I was going to throw up on them.
That's right.
So I was going to take a bunch of, eat a big breakfast and have some Epicac in a coffee mug. And then go, hey, how's Cody? Kathy Lee going about her family, and then throw up. And I thought that'd be funny. And I told Shandling that story, and he's like, oh, can we put that on Larry Sanders? And I was like, yeah, but I kind of want to do that. And he goes, well, So that was on Larry Sanders. And then I show up to do Regis and Kathy Lee, and they go, hey, saw your Shandling. I go, oh, yeah. I go, well, it's just a joke. And then they pat me down, and in my coat pocket, there's a bottle of Epicac.
You wind up spraying them with a fire extinguisher?
Yeah, I just came out and because I had set the Tonight Show on fire, and they're like, "Hey, maybe we'll have you. We'll give you a fire extinguisher. Wouldn't that be funny?" I go, "Yeah, that'd be funny." And then I don't even let them get the introduction out. I just grabbed the fire extinguisher and I started hitting the 2 of them with it. But I don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
I love the PSA that you had to do after the Leno incident.
Well,
that's
thing.
just great.
Gilbert, when you do things, I'm sure it's the same way. It's like I don't think often when I'm doing something, it's like, well, you liked it when I did this and this and this. I just assume, well, you're gonna like this too, and it's only, hindsight. That line they talk about us going over, I just see it in the rearview mirror. I don't think people are going to get upset when they get at the things they do get upset at. I'm always surprised which ones they choose to flip out about.
Yeah, well, it's like when I was going through that whole tsunami thing, I was thinking, so wait, so everyone's shocked. You never heard me on the Howard Stern show. You never saw me at a roast. You never saw me on stage. You know?
Yeah. It's just like there's a bit of our culture that, in the 24-hour news cycle that needs these stories like that for people to be upset about, but they're not really about anything. Anybody, I think I had a line about when, I said this after your thing. I was like, nobody who had lost their home in the tsunami, and it's like, well, how's it going? It's like, well, I lost my son and my daughter, and the house is destroyed, but I really can't get past what this New York comedian said about I don't think people are offended for people that they're not. It's just not reality.
It's just like I had some Japanese woman come over to me recently at some movie theaters, and she said nobody in Japan was talking about your tweets or any of it.
Yeah, or the duck that you were the voice of.
Oh, yeah.
The duck distanced himself from Gilbert.
Yes.
The duck was like going,
the duck had no comment.
Look, I don't... He does the voice. I'm the duck. We're two different people altogether.
It's funny you say that because one of the things that came up at that time that you heard a lot was, well, why did this company hire Gilbert Gottfried then in the first place?
Oh, yes.
They didn't know who they were getting into business with.
Yeah.
Well, every time I take a gig like that, I'm like, I'm going to blow this. I'm going to screw it up. I needed some bread one year, and Robin did a Snickers commercial, and he held out and said, well, I want Bobcat to be in it with me. And he calls up and he's like, so they're going to ask you the commercial, so just tell them no. I was like, okay. So I was like, no, I'm an artist, and then he came back with more money. And I go, what do I do now? He goes, no, don't tell him yes now, don't tell him no. So I take the commercial, but then he calls me up and he goes, so they want you to do the voice. Are you okay doing the voice? Because he knows I have a weird relationship with the character people know me for him. I go, Robin, for the amount of money Snickers is paying, I will fuck a Snickers bar on camera. By the way, I should say it's a great candy bar. It's a really good, delicious candy bar. And I'm not saying that because I signed a lot of paperwork saying that I would never say anything negative. Even if I didn't sign that paperwork, I would tell you it's a great candy bar.
Well, my favorite tweet that I got around that time when I was in trouble was Affleck fires Gilbert Gottfried after discovering he's a comedian.
Oh, that's funny. Since you brought up Robin, Bob, I just want to talk quickly. I just want to tell our listeners, we got a lot of people listening to this show now, about World's Greatest Dad, which is arguably his best performance. I mean, I love him in The Fisher King. I mean, he did, Dead Poets Society, he did great work. But what a plum role for him, and he's just so good in it.
Well, he wasn't going to, he read the script, asked me to read it because he thought he'd play like a small part and then it would help me get funding. But then he called me up and said, hey, can I play the guy? And I was like, sure. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was going to write a movie for Robin, I wouldn't write him as an English teacher. I think he covered that pretty well. But, so we're already friends when we started the movie. I mean, I was, it's funny. I do say that. I do know I was his best friend because I spent time bored out of my mind with him, and I don't think people can even imagine, just he would play this first shooter video game all the time, Call of Duty, and then one day I was just, I don't know, he'd be like, hey, come hang out, and I'd be watching him play his game bored, but he'd be swearing because he's playing with other people, on the internet, and I go, how old are these people you're playing? And he's like, I don't know, 12, 13, and I'm like, I just love the idea that like years go by. I don't know that some kids hearing this story going, the genie from Aladdin did call me a cocksucker. But yeah, so I was like, I didn't know how we were going to work together. He'd been in other things I'd done, but I hadn't been number one on the call sheet. So I was nervous, that I would say, okay, let's do a take and let's do it really quiet and calm. And I thought he was going to say, I have an Oscar and you were in Hot to Trot. I think we'll do it the way I want to do it. But that wasn't the case at all. It was a true collaboration. It was a lot like God Bless America with Joel Murray. That was another collaboration, where they're bringing a lot more than even just an actor. Joel had a lot of great ideas that were reflected in God Bless America, and Robin had a lot of great ideas. Robin made me laugh. One of the first things he said was, he goes, "So this is a beard movie, but I don't have a beard." And he was the one that decided to strip off all his clothes at the end of the movie. And I go, well, let me think about that. And then I turned around and I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
It's so well done.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So it's, if I had to pick like the movies that I've made 7 now, but the 2 that I'm probably the most connected to, it would be World's Greatest Dad, because Robin and I, and then Call Me Lucky, the one I did on Barry, which we're turning that into a narrative movie. I'm working with Judd Apatow on a script, and we're going to make that a feature film. Yeah,
the whole cast in World's Greatest Dad, by the way, too, and Daryl Sabara playing the son, wonderful.
Yeah, he's great. He was in the Spy Kids movie.
I recognized him.
Did you? I never seen him, so. Yeah. So he came in and he just stayed in character, and he was really great. But I was like, I'm conflicted because he seems like such a horrible person. But I feel he'd be really good in the movie. And I called up people, and they go, Daryl's a really nice kid. What are you talking about? So he was just so locked in. So we had another meeting, and he thought he was auditioning again. I was like, no, I just wanted to know if you were an asshole. And then I saw like the character break away, and Daryl now still remains to be like kind of part of the family and very close to him.
Gilbert, I'm gonna make you watch this movie because you're gonna like it.
No, it sounds good.
We had Carl
Reiner. Spoiler alert! A baby may or may not get shot in the movie in the first couple minutes. But in my defense, that kid was an asshole. No, yeah.
I know what you're referring to. Yes, in the other movie.
Yeah,
right.
And God Bless America.
Yeah, I'm gonna make him watch both of them.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. World's Greatest Dad.
Yeah, World's Greatest Dad I was referring to.
We also worked together on CSI.
Yeah.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where at the beginning of the show, Jeff Ross dies. He's doing a set, and he falls to the ground dead. And it's either me or Bob
who's the killer.
Killed him. Yes.
And before the show aired, I couldn't talk publicly enough about that I was the killer. It just made me laugh. Like to be on the radio. Yeah, I'm the killer. People be so mad. But I often say that I retired from acting the same time they stopped hiring me. But the reality is that was the end of my acting career. Because if you remember it, I'm very serious and
oh yes, yes.
I have to see this.
Really hit the. I mean, yeah, and
you have a line in it, and you could tell the writers probably thought this was Shakespearean, where you're a comic on stage and you go, "I killed today." And
I just got shit chills. But like people are like going, "Oh, you were so good at it." And I was like, "I'm never gonna be a good actor. I'm gonna concentrate behind the scenes." Also, I was wondering, because I know you do Bella a lot, but do you have an affinity for the movie Ed Wood? Or
oh yeah, he likes that.
We
had Larry and Scott here.
Oh yeah.
On the show.
They're the same writers who wrote Problem Child.
Problem Child, yeah.
There you go.
Which that's there was some other crazy connection between Problem Child and Ed Wood besides them. I can't remember which one.
Well, I said there is a link to Problem Child and every other film they did, and that there is that weird thing like this disrespected but sometimes popular Ed Wood. Right. A guy who's frowned on in the movie business, like they were, and then there's like a movie like Big Eyes about something that's popular culture that no one respects, but is the public loves it.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? I think it was some sort of Max Cady reference. Was what? Because remember, that's what he's watching.
Oh, in Cape Fear,
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
right,
yes.
that's
right. He's watching Problem Child.
Yeah, we talked about it with Ileana.
And he's cackling like a maniac.
Right.
So that's how you know he's crazy if he thinks Problem Child's funny.
They should have just had the cops come in, take him away during the movie.
You're watching a movie with Gilbert Gottfried?
I have an affinity for both Ed Wood and the movie. I really love that movie, and I don't think Ed Wood's the worst filmmaker ever. I think his films are always passionate. I think they're imaginative. There's way more pedestrian filmmakers than Ed Wood. I mean, so I don't think he's the worst filmmaker by far.
The films that are remembered as being the worst films, that are picked in the worst film, are the ones that people enjoy watching.
Yeah, there's a certain charm to them.
Yeah, and it's like there's plenty of worse shit out there that's coming out every day.
I mean, you can't make a bad cult movie. There's got to be this weird passion, I think, that the filmmaker, and maybe it's also some naive thing where it's just that they're blinded by. But I do love Ed Wood. I guess I kind of modeled my career after Ed Wood in a way. I make really tiny movies, and I work with my friends, and I elude box office success. So that's my formula.
It's very inspiring, I have to say, Bob. I was doing the research on you, and I watched a lot of interviews, and I listened to your interview with Mark Maron. And this idea that you just decided, I don't want to be in anything that I wouldn't watch.
Yeah, I just kind of, I say, you keep quitting until you end up someplace you don't want to leave, and that happened to me.
Great
and
line.
the weirdest thing right now, I've never been busier. I have an anthology series on True TV that I'm filming, and that'll come out next year. And I just shot a pilot with Michael Patrick King and Bridget Everett for Amazon. So I'm working on, and during all of that, I went and shot Patton Special. So I'm very, very busy. So when I'm ego surfing on the internet and someone makes a joke like, well, I get it, but they assume that I'm I don't know. I mean, I guess they just assume I'm hanging out with Screech or something. I mean, I don't know what they think. I don't know. It's like just because I'm not in front of the camera doesn't mean that I'm not busy. I'm actually really busy. But I mean, that guy, the killer just now in Portland. I shouldn't bring this up in your show, but I looked at a photo of the guy and I go, man, he looks like me from the '80s, and I'm like, oh man, I wish that didn't happen. So all the tweets are, hey, it's good to see Bobcat Goldthwait still alive. I'm like, but like I haven't done the same, so I got to have tough skin.
Now, and I got to remember to tell you, you had a traffic altercation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm glad we didn't forget that.
Jack Carter.
Yeah. I was going to the Improv's Christmas party, and I'd already heard that he didn't like me. He went on some jag with a bunch of comics and just telling me I'm not funny and all this stuff, whatever. But so my wife was backing into the parking spot, and he just zooms in and takes it, the parking spot. And I actually got out and go, hey, we were backing into that. He goes, well, it's my parking spot now. And he goes into the goes into this. There's a Christmas party at the Improv. So I go and go into the club, and I get a screwdriver, and I steal his vanity license plate that says Jack Carr.
Oh, geez.
Oh, this is great.
So I'm walking back into the club, and I have the license plate under my jacket, and the cops come up, and they go, can we talk to you? And then I go, yeah, over here. And when the cop when I said over here, I realized I wasn't in trouble because he had recognized me and stuff. And I said, well, Jack Carr is a big asshole. And I told him the whole story. And I took his license plate. And I showed him the license plate. I go, do you want me to put it back? He goes, keep the plate. So, the cop kind of let me go. And then I had Jack Carter's license plate hanging in my rumpus room for years. I wanted to send a photo of me with a ski mask with his vanity license plate. So I was doing a roast. And I told the story, and I said, I'd like to apologize to Jack Carter. And I pulled his paper bag out, and I had the license plate. People realized it was a real story, and I gave it to him. And he fucking threw the little thing at me. He threw it back at me. He's like, I can't remember, it was like cocksucker, something like that. But yeah, so sadly, he and I did not become pals before his demise.
That's too bad. We had him booked here, and he went and died on us.
That's a spite death.
Yeah,
he took it personally. To spite you.
And I don't know exactly what he meant by this, and now I'll never find out. Jack Carter was on one show, and they mentioned me to him, and he said, he's a rebate.
A rebate?
A rebate.
Not a reprobate?
Yeah, no. He said a rebate.
Wow.
Well,
And he took that to his grave.
You're a coupon. I think there's when you get to a certain age, and if you're still working in comedy, you either I don't know. There's just sore winners. People who've had a good run and they're still mad.
Well, he was famously bitter about everybody.
Yeah.
We'll send you. There's a funny thing called "Shit Jack Carter Says," which was listed, which was our friend Cliff Nestoroff put together. It was just rants at the end of Jack Carter's life. We'll send it to you.
Good.
It's quite good.
Yeah, there's just I think Gilbert and I are probably doing it right. We're tenacious. We're still around, and I'm judging you, but I feel you're very happy. Is that right?
Well, let's not go that far.
That's crazy. Well, you're miserable enough to be entertaining.
Yes.
But you're not lonely. How's that?
Well, yeah, and it's a funny thing, because both of us got famous around the same time.
Yeah.
Well, you're also both similar comics. I mean, you're what Michael O'Donoghue used to call slash and burn comedy.
Yeah. I mean, you mean Gilbert and I?
Both of you. Yeah, both of you. Yeah, you're kind of like anarchists.
Yeah.
The guys that are deconstructing it at the same time that they're doing it, not to get too artsy-fartsy about stand-up.
But no, I think that was it. I mean, don't you think your early stand-up was making fun of it?
Oh, yes. And here's a question I get all the time, so I'll give it to you because you probably get asked this all the time. Everyone always says to me, where did you develop your personality, your whole delivery to me? So what would you say as far as with you? Was there any conscious thought?
I was like very derivative of you. No. I said I want to get a piece of this Alan Thicke show heat. No, I was the people that influenced me were people like Andy Kaufman and George Carlin and Steve Martin and all those. But it wasn't ever like this is somebody I saw and I was going to make fun of them by doing a character. It was something that just came out of me, and my earlier sets were just me crying and, reading a Dear John letter, and then I would stop and I would clean fish on stage. I would say, does anyone have a fish? And my roommate would have some fish. And then once at the ding ho, I opened up this fish and this woman threw up immediately because the fish was rancid. And I just held the mic down so you could hear her retching over the PA. And then the club owner was just like, Bobby, you weird. And then the next comic, Bill Campbell, very funny, bossy comedian, but his comedy is just, I'm a dad recently, and just fish entrails and vomit all over the stage. Who influenced me? I don't know. I mean, did your persona just evolve from every time you got up on stage?
That's really it.
Yeah.
I never put any conscious effort into it. It's not like people think, oh, did you have some eccentric uncle or something?
Right. Yeah. Or that, like, our script, it's not like our stand-up was a script and we looked at it and said, now I got to come up with a character for this script. It was just going up on stage in this thing that is an extension of both of us. It's not like it's not, it's a very slippery slope when we start talking about characters, because as much as I love Jerry Lewis, he starts starts talking about the kid and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say that they're not us, even though they are us.
I have the same feeling. Like either persona, I feel like to me it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing. So both of them are real.
Yeah, this is a good way to wrap this up. We started on the Universal Monsters.
Yeah, there you go.
Now we're back.
You're also both, if I may say, comfortable. You both like the idea of making an audience uncomfortable. You, Bob, you set out with the idea of creating a sense of awkwardness and unease.
That's what
Gilbert does it too.
And Tom Kenny said that's why I started making movies. He was like, he said that I could no longer surprise or make an audience uncomfortable that came to see me do stand-up, because they were happy to watch me do that. That's probably why I started making movies, because now I can make them awkward and upset by stories I'm trying to tell.
So what else is coming up? You said you're working. Are you doing that Ray Davies project?
I've been, I just saw him a few weeks ago. That's my dream project, but unlike my other movies, that one is a musical and it's going to take a lot more money, because my movies make hundreds of dollars. I don't think you understand. Hundreds of dollars. So that's if I ever get a budget, but we are still, I'm trying to get that going. That's my, I haven't given up on it, and Ray's still involved. So I just want to do it right. I told Ray that if I ever made that movie and he didn't like it, I'd want to kill myself. So I want to do a good job, or at least make it when I'm really sad.
Well, Gilbert's very amused by the idea. Did you really write 11 screenplays after World's Greatest Dad?
Yeah.
Because Gilbert loves the idea of the gay Billy Jack movie.
Oh, I will do that. Oh, I wrote that one.
You must do that.
I wrote that one. I'm going to have to ask you to stop using that word.
It's come up on this show, Billy Jack.
Yeah, I just, my wife at the time, she was the 09. She was like, I go, I'm tired of being broke. I'm going to write a genre picture, And I go, I loved Billy Jack movies as a kid, so I'm going to write a Billy Jack movie. So I started writing it, and she came down. She goes, how's it going? I go, it has about 40 pages in. I go, he's gay now. And and she goes, we're just going to keep renting, aren't we? I go, yeah, we're going to rent.
Do you stay in touch with Savage Steve?
I
worked for him too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wrote an episode of Eek the Cat.
Oh, wow. Savage Steve, we flirt with the idea of doing One Crazy Summer movie. That would be one of the few things that I would actually be willing to hit the boards again for.
Oh, he's the best.
Now why you've retired from stand-up a number of times?
Well, no, I just said I'm probably not going to do it when I was directing and stuff, but it got misconstrued. It wasn't like Sinatra retiring. No one really cared. I mean, yeah. But whenever I got back into it was always because there's a connection that I would make with when I needed money.
Yeah.
I missed that. There's a hug that no woman can give me. That's from Mr. Saturday Night.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
There's a hug that no woman can get me, and every guy wants to be me, and every woman wants to fuck me. Yeah, I haven't had that feeling yet on stage.
That's the perfect segue to this thing I want to go out on, Bob. We've talked about Gilbert loves to mock the idea that of women who say that they really want to be with a funny guy. We've talked about this on the show, and
I
Bob,
think that's true.
Yeah.
I think they do appreciate a sense of humor. They just don't appreciate the other part of the stand-up comic. They don't, I want to be with someone that makes me laugh. They don't want to be with someone that's full of shame and self-doubt and loathing and that sits in the fetal position crying. So yeah, that negates. Doesn't matter how funny you are. It's that other side of. That's the part. That's the.
I loved the line I saw you say was they don't want to be with a guy who cries while he masturbates.
Yeah,
which I loved.
That's the. They like the funny part. The rest no.
We could go on. You got to go.
Yeah.
Wait. We almost forgot.
What did we forget?
We before we end each show, well, we have to say we haven't even scraped the surface.
Oh, our engineer says we always say.
Yeah.
You know, we got. There's so much we could talk to you about. We wanted to ask you about George Gaines too from Police Academy.
Well, we should. I should just come back.
Come back, because we didn't talk about Richard Donner, and we didn't talk about.
I love Donner. I got great stories about him.
We got to talk about Shakes the Clown. And
no, we don't want you to come back. Can you tell us off the air?
He's pissed that we waited 170 episodes to call him.
I'll be back here at 340.
There's a lot we didn't touch on, so we hope you'll come back.
Yeah, please. I would love to. Thanks a lot. And please go see Gilbert's movie. It's insightful not only into Gilbert, but into the mind of any comedian that has anything to say.
And that's nice of you. And
wow, thank you.
And to our listeners, please see Bob's movies, both God Bless America, which is cathartic, and Joel Murray's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, Joel's great.
In it, and also World's Greatest Dad, which my wife and I were howling at the other night.
And if you... just watch or Call Me Lucky, but that's a really heavy movie. It's about as heavy as a movie gets. So, well, thanks for having me on. I thought I'd end on a lull, and I did it.
All right, Gil.
Well, this has been Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre and a man who, most importantly, liked my documentary. That's what he'll forever be remembered
for.
Yes.
That'll be on my grave.
Our friend Bob it's not Bobcat anymore, is it?
Oh, I like Bobcat. I don't. Yeah,
okay.
I haven't gone insane.
Yeah. Our friend Bobcat Goldthwait.
Bobcat, thanks, man.
Thank you.